Please allow me to introduce myself. My favorite name these days derives from the Hebrew word Halel, which means shining, an allusion to the morning star and the majesty of a now long-dead Babylonian king, which by the 3rd century or so came to be associated with your mythology of the devil, the Greek translation having rendered it phosphorus, meaning to carry light in association with the god Hesperus. Later, St. Jerome Latinized this to Lucifer, an allusion to the Roman Vesper. Indeed, I do favor the Lucifer label, but what's in a name? Call me whatever you wish. Call me George if you like. And in that spirit, hello once again. We were tempted to begin this video with a mock phone call from an angry viewer, dismissive of the interest the Lucifer series takes in Kundalini Yoga, even equating Kundalini with hypnosis, delusion, and psychic wool-gathering. Finally, the caller would identify himself as none other than Mr. G.I. Gurdjieff, the Greek-Armenian spiritual teacher about whom we have done so many videos. Apparently, you see, Mr. G rejected Kundalini. Having been confronted about this issue recently, the producer of our videos, Neil Fox, has endeavored to chase down the whole question of Gurdjieff and Kundalini, and by extension, Gurdjieff and the East in general. According to Beelzebub's tales to his grandson, the historical Buddha was the last great spiritual messenger sent to India. In chapter 21, however, the first visit of Beelzebub to India, page 249, he states without equivocation that the Buddha's real message was lost long ago and that nothing remains of it, just as he equates the retarding force on human consciousness to which he alludes in terms of a fictional device dubbed a Kunda buffer, with something he calls Kundalina, upon which all Indian religion is now predicated. Thus all consciousness pursuits in India are implied to be, hallucinogenic and imaginary, a matter of dreams and fantasy and spiritual escapism. One may ponder why he says Kundalina instead of Kundalini. One may also want to consider that G never visited India, so the only first-hand exposure he ever had to Kundalini was what he made of the wool-gathering he observed among the theosophists of his day, much the same as what one will encounter with bliss ninnies and love zombies that tend to serve as cultural stereotypes for the New Age scene in the current era. Not that everyone connected to this scene is an astral junkie, but most of our viewers will know what I mean. G wanted to steer his students clear of what you Yanks might term the airhead aspect, a concern of his that has always had our sympathy, just as the Lucifer series concedes that escapism is certainly an element in India, just as hypnosis can pass for enlightenment over there, especially when it is about chanting. And this appears to be the point of G's polemic, and a pointed point it is, but any polemic will end up playing loose with the facts. For one, many denominations of Buddhism would seem at least reasonably faithful enough to the Buddha's teachings. Certainly Buddha's teachings remain in written form for anyone to consider, and while Kundalini would be considered what is called a Hindu path, everyone knows that Buddhism and Hinduism are quite related. And as much as Kundalini may involve the imagination as a means, that the imagination should become the end-all for the more spaced out among the Theosophists and New Agers is simply a corruption. Moreover, Kundalini alters brainwaves in a fundamental manner, so the idea that it is part and parcel with a mortal's usual basic linear beta wave state, the state Beelzebub's term Kundalina/Kunda buffer would seem to reinforce, is factually mistaken as well. Also, Kundalini can impact upon bodily processes in profound ways that belie the view that it is just a matter of fantasy. Finally, Kundalini teaches an underlying oneness of being that is similar to what G is getting at in his own philosophy. Of course, as far as Beelzebub's tales to his grandson goes, the book is so satirical and satire makes for such a broad brush that one makes allowances and hangs with the gist of the basic message, as G himself urges his readers to do. But in Ouspensky's book In Search of the Miraculous, page 220, G is not speaking as Beelzebub. He is talking plainly in a straightforward manner to some students of his. Granted, he is talking about Kundalini in the context of the occultism of his day there in Europe. But if one reads the passage squarely, one will have to admit that he appears to be trashing Kundalini itself. It is clear that G is either in error, or his thinking reflects a deep corruption, or he is saying something so outrageous that he expects people to dig deeper to reconcile it all to reality. On the face of it, I must say it does not look good. Incidentally, the idea that Buddha was the last genuine teacher in India is an Islamic speculation, or rather it was long ago, a minority speculation. Beelzebub holds that true Islam was preserved by the dervishes, a branch of Sufism. It is well known that Sufism played a major role in shaping G's philosophy. So sadly, this business about Kundalini could be a parochial matter of being true to Sufi assumptions about Indian religion based on the Quran, which opens up a whole new field of study that could only be termed Islamo-Beelzebub. How ready are Gurdjieffians to bowing down 5 times a day to Mecca? Are they ready to swear off alcohol for the rest of their lives? Are women interested in Gurdjieff prepared to never go out in public without covering their heads? And must Neil Fox, an artist and writer damned as a blasphemer by most any conceivable Muslim standard, submit to being stoned to death for producing the Lucifer series? Actually, for our part, we must admit that no one connected to what we do is particularly willing to die for the show. Not at this time, anyway. So I am afraid you must count us out.